There are many strong and desirable items in Classic WoW, however some of the items in the game are wanted so much that they are bound to cause drama and get people in your guild mad when they don't receive it. In this video I will go over 5 items in Classic WoW that will cause drama. Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to this vaulty video. So I'm sure many people have been in this situation when a big ticket item drops after killing a boss, and then your guild has the hard decision of deciding who to give it to, and more importantly, which class benefits from the item the most. It's natural that nobody likes being told that this item that is a clear upgrade for their character cannot be given to them because of their class. And inevitably a lot of guild drama starts because of this. So the items in this video aren't necessarily the best items in Classic WoW, but are the items that definitely cause drama when they drop. But before I get into this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Are you tired of cartoony and kid-looking mobile games? Well, Raid brings the turn-based RPG back to its fantasy roots. With a wide array of different champions with their own unique spells and abilities, gives you a strategic RPG experience on your phone and now desktop. What I like about the game is that each champion has its own niche and abilities that makes it useful in a certain situation. Now is the perfect time to get started with Raid Shadow Legends, with the new player rewards being extended from 90 days to 180 days, as well as a free barbarian legendary champion, Sickle the Drake. I've been really addicted to this game and it's just so much fun to play when you're on the go. So what are you waiting for? Go to the video description, click the special link, and if you are a new player you get 100,000 free silver and a free epic champion called Hexweaver. All this treasure will be waiting for you here, but act fast because the rewards will only be available for the next 30 days. Good luck and I'll see you there. So number 5 on this list is Drake FANG Talisman, or DFT. So any of you melee DPS players will have your eyes on this trinket. This is one of the super overpowered trinkets that you can get from Blackwing Lair. The stats on this trinket are so good, it's basically like having 2 amazing trinkets in one, giving you a massive 56 attack power, 2% hit chance, and a 1% chance to dodge. Now to explain how good this trinket is, the 2% hit chance is basically taking care of your main stat priority as a melee DPS. If you're playing a rogue or a fury warrior, your priority number 1 is to get to 9% hit chance, because that is going to be the hit cap. As when you fight raid bosses that are several levels above you, you're going to be missing a lot unless you have hit chance. And this trinket single-handedly takes care of a lot of the hit chance. However, it doesn't stop there. The plus 56 attack power is absolutely huge for a fury warrior or a rogue. However, this item is a cruel joke, because a lot of the time melee DPS won't even get this trinket. The first priority, if we're being objective, is to give it to tanks. Now, why is that the case? Why do tanks get this amazing melee DPS trinket? Well, tanks are similar to melee DPS in the fact that it's pretty hard for them to get plus hit on their items, and it's one of the main stats for them. The only difference is, playing as a tank warrior, you don't often get equipment that gives you plus hit, as your main priority is going to be getting plus defense and block chance and dodge chance and stuff like that. So the slots that you have available where you can easily get some hit chance are very hard to come across. In fact, the Drake FANG Talisman is actually best in slot for warriors throughout the entire game. It basically takes care of their hit problem, which is very rarely on tank armor. You see, a tank actually needs to hit the boss because they need to get threat and they need to get rage. So this Drake FANG Talisman is very useful for them, not to mention the plus 1 dodge chance. So the DFT is a very convenient item for a tank, but if you're a guild master, try explaining that to the rogues and fury warriors as to why they can't get this amazing trinket. So number 4 on this list is NELTHARION'S tier. So NELTHARION'S tier is pretty similar to the Drake FANG Talisman. It's kind of like the lightning rod for the magic users. The same way that the Drake FANG Talisman is kind of like the lightning rod for melee classes, this is the equivalent for caster DPS. This overpowered trinket has plus 44 spell damage and a 2% chance to hit with spells. So this is like 2 amazing trinkets in one. Now to put how good this trinket is into perspective, the Briarwood Reed and the Eye of the Beast trinket combo, which is pre-raid best in slot for mages and warlocks, only gives you 29 spell damage and a 2% chance to crit. Now even those two pre-raid best in slot trinkets combined isn't as good as the NELTHARION'S tier. NELTHARION'S tier is kind of like having 3 trinkets in one slot. It's really that amazing, and it's best in slot throughout the entire game for any caster DPS. So that includes mages, warlocks, boomkins and shadow priests. They are all going to have this as their overall best in slot trinket. I was super lucky to get one last week where I was at the top of the mage list and I was competing against a top warlock, and we both rolled to see who would get it. I actually won the roll by 1, beating a 90 roll with a 91. Now the drama with this trinket is quite obvious. This is a best in slot overall trinket for every caster DPS, but it only has a 10% chance of dropping from Nefarian, so on average you need to kill Nefarian 10 times before you even see one drop. I mean, it's very feasible that even if you get to the end of Classic WoW, a lot of your caster DPS might not even have this trinket, even going into Naxxramas, so when it drops it's a big deal for your guild. So needless to say, if a boomkin or a shadow priest gets this is going to cause some riots in your guild. However, you can even argue that mages shouldn't get this trinket. As crazy as that sounds, and that mages are going to use this until the end of Classic WoW as a best in slot item, it's actually technically better for warlocks even compared to that, because warlocks have a much harder time getting plus hit with spells, and the hit cap for mages is a lot lower, so the claim for warlocks to get this item as a priority is not unfounded. You could very easily argue that this is a warlock prior item. If you are a guildmaster and this drops, try explaining to your mages why they can't get this best in slot item. I'm sure many people have G-quitted because of that situation. So number 3 is any BOE. So this isn't necessarily a problem with raiding guilds, but it's a problem when it comes to pickup groups. So I'm sure you guys have been in a situation where you're in a 5-man dungeon and everything seems to be going smoothly until a freezing band drops. And then there's that awkward moment where everybody is just waiting to see what people click on, nobody is clicking greed or need and just waiting to see what happens. And then the mage comes in and says that I should get it because it's a upgrade for me, but then again it's worth 700 gold on the auction house, and the need for greed etiquette kind of goes out the window at that point. Everybody starts rolling need and it doesn't go to the mage, and the mage gets unhappy and leaves the group. Understandably upset. But this is how things go when it comes to BOE items. If any item drops that's worth a significant amount of gold, all of the etiquette goes out the window. You can assume that everybody is just going to roll need, and for a player that actually has that item as an upgrade or something that they can use, doesn't get it, they are of course going to be upset. I've seen a variation of this scenario happen so many times, whether it be the Eye of the Beast, a flask recipe, an epic BOE. Whenever an expensive item drops, inevitably there's going to be some drama and dispute. Expensive BOEs in dungeon groups is always just a recipe for disaster. So number 2 is Thunderfury. So how can I speak about drama items without talking about Thunderfury? This item is really good. It just does an insane amount of DPS, and the proc it has is absolutely invaluable for a raiding guild. Now of course people know that this is tank prio, but of course rogues are going to do anything they can to get their hands on this as well. Rogues want this bad, and the fact that it has orange text just makes people even more irrational. No matter who is given Thunderfury, there's going to be accusations of GM privilege or special treatment because you can only give it to one player. Since many times this is not even done via DKP, it's kind of like an item that just gets reserved by someone. It doesn't necessarily get the same treatment that epics do, and understandably people can get kind of salty about Thunderfury. So Thunderfury and drama kind of just goes hand in hand. So number 1 on this list is ATIESH. So I spoke about this in my video about legendary weapons, and I mentioned how this is the most hotly contested item that is a legendary. Now I want to amend that. I think that this is the most hotly contested item in Classic WoW, period. There are a number of reasons for this. A, it's a legendary item. B, it's best in slot for 4 classes. And C, your guild will likely only have one player to give this to. Now, although by the time you get to ATIESH, it's not really going to be used in progression because you'll probably have Naxxramas on farm status. and at that point it doesn't really matter, but it still matters to the player that can get it. Mages, warlocks, priests, and druids are all going to be campaigning as to why their class should get priority on ATIESH, and the fact that all 4 versions of this stave are so good and best in slot just makes the arguments that classes will have that much more real. This is obviously going to create some conflict. I mean, try explaining that one class should get a priority on ATIESH over the other. It's going to cause drama. And even after you decide which class should get priority on ATIESH, you still have to decide which one of the people in that class should get it. And how do you decide that? Do you all just do /roll? I don't think people would be happy with that either. Sooner or later, everybody besides the person that gets ATIESH is going to be salty. Now, I know I play a mage, but this really is a mage priority staff, because of the plus 2% hit that this staff has that the other versions of staves do not have. But in all seriousness, you could give this to any class and it would be justifiable. Well guys, if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel. This is vaulty, signing out.